Hello everybody, just carrying out a timing belt replacement on a dispatch. So before I start, one thing I'd do is just make sure that you've read all repair instructions that go along with a job like this, and make sure that you've got all the tools. So have got the timing tools that go along for this repair. So before you try and do any kind of cam belts or timing belts, make sure you've always got them tools. So just gonna make a video now showing you how to do that. And if you have a look underneath, as you can see, it looks pretty tight down there, not that much you've seen, but do a video as we go along showing you what you need to do to get this job done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've just slackened off this coolant reservoir. What I want to do is get this bottom right out of my way, but as you can see there is some coolant in there, so I'm going to drain the coolant out of the system. I'm doing a water pump replacement as is recommended to be done when you change the cam belt. So having a look underneath, as you can see here, there's a hose right smack bang in the middle. So I'm just going to undo this clip, pull that up, and then pull the hose off and let all the coolant drain out into a bucket. So the reservoir bottle's now being removed, and the bracket that went onto here, and as you can see, is starting to show a lot more what you can see now. So there is the wiring on the top engine mount, and as you can see here, I'm starting to see the bolts for the top cover where the timing belt is. Just to show you what they look like. So this was the bracket. So the bracket was sat like this on the car, and the reservoir bottle was like this. So there's the bracket, just lugs in, them two are in there, goes up around, and as you can see then there was a bolt that held that on. There's a couple of 10 mils. There's a pipe that goes on here, here and here, so remove them, and that's how you get that off and out of the way. Checking the instructions, it says obviously disconnect the battery, remove the cover, drain the coolant, move the fuel lines out of the way. So now we're at the point where we need to be taking off the wheel, splash guard, and taking the drive bar off, so we'll get on with that. So I've just slackened this off now, so I can just pull this down just so I can gain some more visibility of what's going on. So underneath then, as you can see, it's the auxiliary drive belt, so it goes around the crank at the bottom, around a couple of the tensioners, and again the alternator. And as you can see, I put a 15mm socket on, and you just pull it down and that relieves the tension. So that's how you get the belt off. So we'll remove the belt, and what I need to do then is put a socket on here and then do this, and then I can take the pulley off as well. So I've removed the alternator belt and the pulley as we described. Just got the top. What I've done is I've just undone the 10mm which was located here, which was holding this wiring on. Also there was a bracket holding the pipe on, as you can see here, for the power steering. So that's just in there. So that's just held on by that 10mm. And there's just a little T30 that I've undone as well there, just to slacken that off to get them off. So now you need to get this engine mount off. So before you take the engine mount off, what you need to do is make sure you've got something underneath the engine to support it. So as you can see here, I've got a jack on the sump. So I've got a rubber block on there as well. So don't just jack it straight onto the sump. So use a block of wood or anything you got just to protect it. So while we're down here, just to show you as well that the belt is now off. As you see, the pulley has been undone. So there's an 18mm bolt on the bottom pulley. So just an 18mm. Came straight off. I used an impact gun to undo that. Let's took that straight off. So I'll get on with taking the mount off now. So if you want to have a look, so these are T50s. So if you need to know what size they are, so T50 on them. There's 1, 2, there's one underneath here as well, 3. And again, then there's a nut here, there, and there for them bolts. So I'll undo all of that, and then I'll update you once that's got take it off. So the mount has been removed now. So first thing I had to do was take this back link off, stabilise the link, so got that out of the way. Then I undid the 3 bolts, and then this came straight off as well. What that leaves us with then is, as you can see, looking in now, lots more accessible down the side. And what we have to do now then is get the other part of the mount off. So there's some nuts, 1, 2, 3, and there's one underneath as well, 4. Then we get that off, and then it'll just be the timing belt cover that we need to remove. So this mount is now off, so that's what we were looking at. So we had the 4 bolts at 16 mils all through the side. So now we're just left with the timing case of itself. So looking down now, as we can see, just trying to get in focus, that mount is now missing. So everything that we looked at before, so when we had the mount here, has all been removed. And now what we have here is the 8 mils. You can see one there, one there, one up there. There's probably one hiding up here as well. And if you have a look underneath, so as we can see, some 8 mils as we go around. We have to remove this crank position sensor as well. That needs to come off again with the 8 mils as it goes all around. So I'll undo all these 8 mils and get this timing belt cover off, and then that will reveal the belt and the water pump. So the timing case cover has now been removed, and as you can see here, it has exposed the belt, the pulleys, the water pump and the high pressure fuel pump. As you can see here, I've got the top pin in the cam here, but have come across a bit of an issue regarding the timing of the fuel pump. So the van does run, but it runs quite rough when you first start it in the morning, then it just smooths out. So I just want to show you now the repair instructions. So here it says, obviously you can see we put the top pin in, so this is for the camshaft. Then again it says put a pin in the high pressure fuel pump and one inside the crankshaft. So I just want to show you what's going on now. So it looks like this van has had a belt on it before, so I have got an endoscope on here so you can see just where I'm recording. As you can see, if I'm just looking just at the top of this pulley, you can see somebody has put a mark on the pulley before. As you can see there, they put the mark on the timing case. So just showing you this timing mark then, as you can see someone has put a mark on this fuel pump before. You can see they've also marked the plastic. So, but what the issue is if you have a look there, so as you can see there is 2 holes, and the top hole is where the timing pin's meant to go in. If you have a look, so where they put the timing mark, behind where they put the timing mark, I'm just going to try and get the camera in the scope in there. There you go. So behind where the pin is, that's where the pin actually pushes through the sprocket and into the housing, like what it says on the repair instructions. So somebody, as you see, there's the mark, and there is where it goes in, just behind it. So this pump, and as you can see there is the hole where it should be, where it should line up. So the pin should go through there and back then into the block, which is round behind there. So this pump is actually out of time. So what I need to do is I'm going to turn it over 100. I'll turn it round again just to make sure. So what I'll do is what I advise you to do if you ever come across something like this is take the pins back out, turn it over one more time until it comes back round again, and then check to see if it lines up, because at the moment that's not correct. So I've turned it over another full turn, so I've put the pin back in where it should be. And now if you have a look at the endoscope, so what's going on, so at the top where it is, as you can see, happy days, it does line up. So it's just the fact the engine just needed turning around another turn to get this to line up. So the fuel pump was in the right place, just that it was, when this pin was out, the fuel pump was out, so I had to take the pin back out, turn it back over again, recheck it, and there you go, it's all in line. So now I can put the pin in there. So like I say, it's very important that you make sure the pins are in the right locations for everything before you take a belt off or a timing chain off any kind of engine. So all the pins are now in. So I've got the one in the cam, I've got the one in the fuel pump, and if you look very right down at the bottom, there's one in the crank as well, it goes through the pulley, and you can see down there and into the locator in the timing case. So what I need to do now is undo the 13mm there, take the belt off, and then get the water pump off. So I've removed the crankshaft seal. So as you see, here's the old one. To do that, you'd have to have a tool like this. What you do is get it in the side and then lever it out, and that pops the seal off. So if you haven't got one of these tools, I wouldn't advise attempting to try and do that job. I'd buy one before, because you're gonna, if you try and knock it out of a punch, what you're gonna do is knock it into the engine. So as you can see here now, is a new pulley, and this is a new seal. I've had to make a modification here, so I've had to cut this out. As you see, there's a Woodruff key, so I was unable to get this on without doing that. As you see now, I've made that cut out. It slots on nicely. So what you need that for is for when you come to put the new seal on. So this is what the new seal comes in. So what you'd have to do is put this then over that, then that onto the engine, and then you can knock that into place. So hope that clears up how to install the seal. So see, managed to get that seal in there now. So what this needs to do is tackle the water pump. So see, a few bolts to remove. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have to remove this water pump. Swap over the tensioner, swap over the idler. There'll be a case of just putting all the belts on. So I'll get the pump off, I'll put the new pump back on, and I'll put the tensioner idler on and the belt, and then I'll give you an update. So now you can see where that timing mark was as well on that pulley. So come to install the belt now. So I've took the water pump off, I've put the new water pump back on, I've changed the idler, I've changed the tensioner. As you see here, when you come to put the belt back on, it has to be done a certain way. So A, B, C, D, and then around E, and finally F. Then when you have the tension installed, what you have to use is a 5mm Allen key. You need to turn it until it gets to the point in the centre. So looking at the tensioner, I see this one's being off. This pointer needs to be in the middle of there. And what it says then is once you've got that in there, tighten the bolts. So having a look on the car, so we're on the van side. So we have got the new belt on. See, all the pins are in the right location. New water pumps on. If you have a look at the pin, it is in that location now. So what I need to do is torque this bolt up, take all the pins out, put everything back in reverse order what I've just took off, and then we're good to go for a start. So turn your engine over 2 times. So as you see, put the bolt back in. So I've turned it around here 2 times, make sure it does a full rotation so the engine goes through its full stroke cycle. Make sure the valves are open and closed and pistons all go up and down and you don't get no contact. After you've done that, make sure you put all the timing pins back in. As you can see, they all line up perfectly to make sure for some reason that it hasn't gone out of time. So let's see, that's all good. So now I'll take all the pins out, I'll put it all back together. So it's all back together, as you can see now. Got the new alternator belt on there as well, coolant's topped up. Let's get into just starting this van now. So make sure you're in neutral if you've got a car on a ramp. Happy days. Cambelt, no issues. It's doing that bit of lumpiness that I've mentioned before. When you first started, this van was already doing that. Maybe some glow plugs and injector going, but it's smoothing out. But as you can see, jobs are good then. Fans are running. New Cambelt water pump on there. Alternator valve. Jobs are good. Hope you find this video useful. Thank you.